Hi everyone. Ashwin, Apurv, Kushi, hi. Am I clearly audible and visible, guys? Hey Lipakshi. Can you guys see me also rightfully? In addition to, of course, hearing me. Can you guys see me also rightfully here? I can't hear that. All right. Thank you, Dave. Thanks. Really appreciate that. Sorry, guys. Sorry for a delay. Some at times technology takes you for a ride. This was the same time. We were trying to connect, but unfortunately, our systems were not permitting Zoom to really present us. So sorry for that. Apologies. We will be kickstarting in a while. I think we have a full team out here. Lipakshi, Arvinder, Dev. Can I request all of you to please switch on your cameras? Kushi, Ashwin, Apurv, everyone to please switch on your cameras. Guys, let's be a sport, right? We all know that in our sessions, cameras are supposed to be on, come what may. No, Ashwin, you forgot, my friend. Cameras have to be on, right? I have to see you guys. That are you guys hearing me, or you're doing shopping in the midway, or you're driving, or whatever. So I have to see and make sure that you are with me on this. Apurv, Kushi, Kaur, Lipakshi, everyone. All right, good. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. All right, guys, good. Thank you. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the SBL Grand Revision for the September 2025 attempt. This is gonna be a roller coaster ride, my friend. Coming 3 days, including today, is gonna be a day wherein we'll be cherry picking. And what we have done is that I have cherry picked myself the topics that I want you to really brush up and know, so that you are there from the examination standpoint, not only from the content perspective, but also from the perspective of how to handle those questions in the exam. The way we have structured our revision sessions is in a way so that you can really get a hang of कि अच्छा अगर मुझे एग्जाम में इस तरह का क्वेश्चन आएगा, so how one should be really targeting that, and of course understanding that, and of course answering that. That is the mantra. That is what we really need to follow. But do not forget, guys, these revision sessions are not the replacement of your own preparation. Of course, this would be like a cherry or an icing on the cake kind of thing, wherein you probably would certainly get a brush up in like coming 3 days. The entire important areas that are there from the strategic business leader perspective, we would be covering that in detail, come what may. What I really want is that you should be aware that day 3, which is like Wednesday, we would be Wednesday, yes, day 3, which is Wednesday, we would be covering the entire pre-scene material. So be ready for that. I have prepared a I would say a detailed deck on the pre-scene material for this attempt, September 2025 attempt, and will be covering that in detail when we'll be deep diving into it. So wait for it, and of course, we'll certainly get a hang of it. Some of you, Apurv, Ashwin, Kushi, you might be wondering that you have submitted your mock. Where are those? You would be getting mock done and revert being given to you by tomorrow end of the day. So you should be having that with you, and we would be having a one-on-one session also after that. Maybe once we have done the pre-scene material, after that we would have that one-on-one session, and we'll talk on in terms of beta which all areas you can improve on, and where exactly you need some help on, and where exactly you probably are good at, but there can be some kind of a I would say extra edge that you can really have if you do X or a Y. So we'll talk on that in detail once I have reviewed your mock. I'm expecting that tomorrow night I'll be spending on to that, so you can expect maybe day after tomorrow morning, or late evening, late night tomorrow, to receive those mock, and of course my revert on that. But I would say the essence would be that we are not missing on these revision sessions, and of course capturing all of the details that are needed in order to to be really excelling in terms of handling these areas in detail from the examination perspective. So should we deep dive and start off the proceedings of the day? Yes, sir. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Strategic Business Leader Grand Revision for September 2025 attempt. We are certainly gonna be covering one of the most important area today. We are gonna be getting on to the details of that area, and I'll probably not steal the thunder right now. We'll see to it in terms of when we really get it over there. Important piece is that today's session can fetch you approximately 30 to 40 marks in the exam. That is the kind of coverage that we have been doing, or we would be doing today. All right, before we really jump in and of course set the tone and get on to the detailing of it in terms of what we really want to cover, these are the slides wherein we take proud in saying it that Pankaj Dhingra as a person has coffee outstanding all throughout the world. Now we have students in various parts of the world who have really come up with the flying colors in the Strategic Business Leader exam, and the only thing that they have done is, do not forget that they have followed the RAFT-P, my friend. RAFT-P is your mantra to clear this exam. RAFT-P is something that you should not be forgetting. Knowing the role, knowing the audience, knowing the format, knowing the exact task that is needed in the exam, and of course the relevant professional skills, application of that professional skills onto that question is gonna be the game changer, my friend, and has been the game changer for many of the names, many of the faces that are being shown out here. You have to be on this slide, my friend, and of course we'll be sitting across and having a cup of coffee as soon as possible. Is that right, Ashwin? Is that right, Ashwin? Yes. Apurva beta, is that right? Yes, sir. All right, moving on. Let's just kickstart, and there's more to do with the fact that we have some of the guests sitting out here today who are gonna be proceeding with us in the journey of Strategic Business Leader exam. Just to give you a flavor, my friend, and there's more for you to really know in terms of what we do, the way we do. FinTram Global is one of the global learning platform for various qualifications in and outside India, whether it is US CPA, whether it is ACCA, whether it is CPA, CFP or CMA or enrolled agent for that matter. We are the one-stop shop when it comes to all of the needs that you may have in also in relation to ACCA, right from the registration to the coaching to the mentoring, and of course to the kind of discussions that we will be having today. And we do not only stop out there, to the extent that the kind of edge that you need in terms of hitting yourself onto the interview table, that is something that we really discuss and of course take forward. The kind of faculties that we really have, most of our faculties are veterans from the industry, including myself. They really have worked in the industry, and that's the reason most of our classes are gonna be practical classes. They're not gonna be theoretical one, come what may. Well adapted to the latest I would say syllabus area changes that really keep coming and of course going in. We are very well equipped in terms of handling that, and of course the continuing support that we provide to our students is something that really stands apart in the market. If I really talk on myself, and this is more for the folks who are seeing me for the first time, my name is Pankaj Dhingra. I'm a qualified chartered accountant and a CPA from US. And of course, last 25 years or so, I've worked for various corporates. I was the global controller for Wipro. From there, I moved as the head of finance for BlackRock, and from there, I moved as head of finance for BCG. Worked almost 25 years or so, and then of course, shifted the gears and of course got into the complete academic side of it, while the switch on happened 25 years later. But I've been very instrumental in terms of talking and of course dealing with the students right from the beginning. So last 20 years I've been teaching CA, ACCA, CMA, CPA, and so on and so forth. You have my WhatsApp number over here in case there is anything that you need, any support that you need, anything that you want to talk on. There can be a delay in reply. I don't deny on that, but you would certainly get a reply from my side in terms of what exact help or support you may need there. All right, getting on to details, my friend, in terms of what we'll be covering today. This is something that we intend to cover. This is something that we intend to ensure that is being captured by yourself in the September 2025 exam. We will start off with, of course, the issues that are being observed in the latest exam. We would be discussing the latest examiner report that has really come up, which is the June and March 2025 examiner report. and we would be discussing that at length in a while. We want to talk on various, I would say, important syllabus areas. As I said, I've cherry picked various topics that you really need to know. We would be really getting on to the details as far as possible on there. We will be touching upon some key technical articles, my friend. Some of the technical articles we have already covered in the syllabus. Some of them we have, we will be, doing a kind of a brush up and a revision in these sessions. So be ready for that. That is coming your way. We'll be talking on various examinations, techniques and skills. Again, this is more like a refresher, my friend, for any FinTrammer who has been to our sessions. This will be more like a sort of a quick refresher to really know as to what they should be knowing in terms of hitting the exam in the best possible way. We'll be doing the professional skills, we'll be doing the formats, and of course we'll be analyzing, my friend, some of the past examination question papers, more so that we will be touching upon what exactly you could have done if you would have been in that kind of a scenario. And of course, towards the end, we'll have a Q&A wherein we will be discussing that at length as to what the doubts or the queries or the questions or the kind of concerns that anyone may have. While we do all of this, my friend, do not forget, day 3 is the day for the pre-seen material discussion. We have a detailed deck being prepared for that, which we'll be discussing, and of course, having that, sharing that with you guys. You do not have to do any kind of notes or anything, my friend. All of these decks will be shared with the FinTram students. So you would be getting this. So there is nothing that you should be any which ways worried about. And of course, as I said, some of the folks have already given their mock. You would be getting your detailed performance review in a couple of days. You should have that, and of course we'll take it up from there. One disclaimer that I really want to give specifically for the folks who are seeing us for the first time: revision does not cover the full course. It is not the replacement of the full course. One should certainly cover all the topics separately in the curriculum. Revision, of course, cherry picks the topics that we really want you to have a brush up on. Do not forget that. That is a real important thing that you should be knowing, come what may. Is that clear? Yes, sir. All right. Now, what is the learning, my friend, that we have from the latest examiner report that has just been issued by ACCA? We have got the examiner report of March and June 2025 attempt. That is something that we'll be covering, and of course, getting making sure that you really get a hang of it in terms of what this is. If I really talk on the background of the question that really came up in the exam, the question was on the charity business, on the charity organization, which is working under the name of Historic Places. It was a fictitious charity organization, and of course, the candidate role that was being given to you was of a consultant, senior consultant, who was leading the team to advise on the strategic matters of the organization. All right. Now, the pre-seen material that you really got at that point in time, that really covered the overview of the charitable sector in the fictional country, which was Rhodesia. So this effectively covered a lot from the perspective of the sector, when it comes to the country, when it comes to the organization. It really gave you an overview of, what is there. There were 2 integrated sections in the exam, my friend. One, of course, was there on the country's charitable sector. Another one that was there on the historic places. So in the similar way, you would be you would have got the pre-seen material of the recent exam, that is the September 2025 exam, and we'll be discussing that at length when it comes to the integrated sections of that particular exam. Now, what was given to you in the question? Now, we have seen what was there in the pre-seen material, but what was there, my friend, in the exam hall? In the exam hall, there was additional information that was being provided. There was an email, my friend, from the CEO, an email from the Chief Executive Officer to the consultant about the introduction of changes which CEO proposes at the historic places. So there was an email that was being shared. Okay, we get that. Then we had a summary of sites performances. Now, historic places is an organization that manages different sites, historical sites of the country. Now, this was a summary that was there in terms of telling the audience that, this site is performing this way in terms of revenue generation, in terms of financial and non-financial parameters. You have got the detailing of it. There was a numerical comparison that was being given for the financial and non-financial performance of two of the HP's side. Okay, that is Stillwater and Trueworth. Okay, prepared by the member of HP's finance function. So effectively, you have got the financial evaluation already been given to you on the table. And then there was a summary of shop operating procedures that was being given. Summary of operating procedures of 4 of the HP's on-site shops prepared by the member of independent consulting organization or a consulting team. That was also being given to you. And then you had a fundraising blog. What was that? A blog that showed how the charity fundraising needs to use up-to-date methods but avoid being too aggressive. These are the 4 things that were given to you in the exam. Now, if you really see to this, you can really correlate to the fact, my friend, that how smart the examiner is. They can give you anything and everything, my friend, in the exam because it is such an open-ended area. You have got a pre-seen material that talks on historic places, that talks on the organization that is there to prevent historic places from getting deteriorated, and of course they are making money from the visitors who are coming over there and visiting those premises. Now you have got a case like this. Now on that case, they have given you these 4 things, which is like an email from the CEO which is trying to introduce some of the changes. Okay, fair enough. Then he's given you the performance of the 2 of the sites, financial and non-financial parameters. Okay, fair enough. Then he's given you some of the operating procedures of the in-house shops that HPs have in these sites. Okay, and then there is a fundraising block that really talks on as to what these organizations should be doing in order to not to be that aggressive, and of course at the same time should be able to raise the funds. Now there are questions being asked on these areas. This is the beauty of this exam, my friend, that really explodes yourself into, or I would say pushes yourself into the direction wherein you probably have to think out of the box. There is nothing theoretical that can work out in these kind of areas. You just have to apply the most, I would say, important thing, which is the common sense. You have to apply the common sense, what an individual might be doing in that particular area, in that particular scenario, and that's what these discussions are all about. That was this exam all about. Beautiful exam, beautiful questions. The way they asked really tested your real skills of being the strategic business leader of an organization. And guess what? We are proud FinTrammers. We certainly understand as to what it really needs to be there. All that what you really need to know and ensure in the exam is that बाबा कोई ऐसा क्वेश्चन जरूर होगा, कोई ऐसा पार्ट जरूर होगा जो हमने नहीं देखा होगा, नहीं सुना होगा. हमें सिर्फ एक ही चीज़ करनी है, अपनी अच्छे से कॉमन सेंस लगानी है वहाँ पे, अपना फाइनेंशियल एक्यूमेंट लगाना है वहाँ पे, उसको आंसर करना है बच्चे और आगे बढ़ चलना है, और हमें कुछ भी सोचना नहीं है. बात समझ में आती है? बिल्कुल आती है. इम्पोर्टेंट बॉस, वी आर नॉट गोना बी कैरिड अवे कि नहीं मुझे बेस्ट ऑफ द बेस्ट आंसर लिखना है. बेस्ट ऑफ द बेस्ट आंसर्स नेवर गेट, आई वुड से, गुड मार्क्स इन द एग्जाम. Average answers who have the person who has really completed the entire exam and has written decently in the exam, they always clear the exam. एग्ज़ाम में कुछ छोड़ना नहीं है, कोई पार्ट मिस नहीं करना है, सब पार्ट को आंसर करना है, इंश्योर करना है मैं जस्टिस हर पार्ट के साथ करूं, मैं अपनी लॉजिकल रीजनिंग हर पार्ट में लगाऊं, राफ्ट भी फॉलो करूं, और कुछ नहीं करना है अश्विन जी. उसके बाद पंकज ढिंगरा को कॉल करना है, कॉफ़ी कहाँ पीनी है. That is what that is important, my friend, and that is what that is needed. बिल्कुल ठीक है. अब हमारे पास ये क्वेश्चन आया, हमें बता दिया ये सारे एग्जिबिट थे, चलो समझ में आता है. अब ओवरऑल एनालिसिस क्या बोलता है बच्चे एग्जाम का ओवरऑल एनालिसिस बोलता है, many candidates made insufficient use of information presented in the exhibit to support their answers. They have not taken into consideration all the exhibits into the answering. Not good, my friend. You have to ensure whatever information you are able to gather, you should be able to gather that. Do not forget that. Some candidates continue to answer the task they wish they had set rather than the task that was actually set. मन में आया था कि इस तरह का क्वेश्चन तो आना ही चाहिए, ऐसा आएगा तो मैं ऐसा आंसर लिखूंगा, तो मैं कुछ भी क्वेश्चन आया मैं ऐसा आंसर तो लिख ही आया। बॉस नहीं चलने वाला ना, जो पूछा है उसी का जवाब देना है। अपने मन से आंसर देने से क्या हो जाएगा खुशी जी? नहीं बनेगी ना बात बेटा। मुझे तो उसी चीज़ का आंसर देना है जो एग्ज़ाम में वो एक्चुअली मेरे से पूछ रहा है। सिंपल सिंपल कट एंड पेस्ट। मैं सिर्फ कट कर रहा हूँ, पेस्ट कर रहा हूँ, कोई लॉजिक नहीं दे रहा हूँ। बिग टाइम इशू माय फ्रेंड। कुछ भी कॉपी पेस्ट करो क्वेश्चन से, रीज़न तो होना चाहिए ना पूर्वा मैडम। ऐसे तो कुछ भी नहीं लिखाएगा ना मेरा बेटा। लिखाएगा तो वो सबसे पहले ये बोलेगा कि कॉपी पेस्ट किया, इसका कोई रीज़न ही नहीं है, तो मुझे अपूर्वा अच्छी नहीं लग रही है। बट अपूर्वा ने ऐसा करना ही नहीं है। वो कुछ भी कॉपी पेस्ट करेगी तो उसका रीज़न दे के आएगी कि हाँ इस वजह से ये चीज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट है, या ये चीज़ यहाँ पे इसलिए रेलेवेंट है। मैं फालतू में कुछ भी नहीं दे के आऊँगा। नॉट यूजिंग ऑल द रेलेवेंट इन्फॉर्मेशन। बहुत सारे इन्फॉर्मेशन दी थी वहाँ पे देव, बट देव को प्यार सिर्फ 2 इन्फॉर्मेशन से हुआ, 2 एग्जिबिट से हुआ। बाकी एग्जिबिट देव ने देखे ही नहीं। बेटा नहीं करना है ऐसा। सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन जितनी भी एग्ज़ाम में आएगी पढ़नी है, जो रेलेवेंट लगेगी उसको यूज़ करना है और आगे बढ़ चलना है। मैंने बच्चा पार्शियल नहीं होना है किसी भी एग्जिबिट के साथ। मेरे लिए सारे एग्जिबिट इक्वली इम्पॉर्टेंट हैं बेटा, ताकि कुछ भी मिस ना हो जाए। बात समझ में आती है अश्विन जी? बिल्कुल आती है। ऑलराइट, कैंडिडेट्स हु फेल्ड। क्या किया इन नलायकों ने? क्यों ये फेल हुए? देखो क्यों फेल हुए। देखो, सबसे पहली बात, कॉपी पेस्टिंग करी विदाउट एनी रीज़न। नहीं करनी है हमें। फेलिंग टू डेवलप पॉइंट्स मेड दैट इज़ नॉट फुल्ली एक्सप्लेन्ड वाई द पॉइंट वॉज रेलिवेंट इम्पॉर्टेंट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द टास्क रिक्वायरमेंट। मैं कोई पॉइंट लिख रहा हूँ तो मुझे रीज़न देना ज़रूरी है बॉस कि मैंने क्यों ये पॉइंट लिखा है, किस वजह से ये आंसर है, एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ। फेलिंग टू अप्लाई एचबीएस केस सिनेरियो, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट गाइज। यू हैव बिन गिवन ए प्री सीन मटेरियल। आपने प्री सीन मटेरियल पढ़ा, आपको पता है प्री सीन मटेरियल का कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या है। अब आप इंश्योर करो कि आपने उसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, रिमेंबर आई हैव ऑलरेडी बीन स्पीकिंग ऑन दिस इन द सेशंस, वी हैव टू स्टेप इन टू द शू ऑफ द पर्सन हु इज़ डीलिंग विद दैट काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन। मैं अगर शू फैक्ट्री का काम कर रहा हूँ तो मैं शू फैक्ट्री का लेबर बन जाऊँगा। मैं अगर मोबाइल कंपनी का काम कर रहा हूँ तो मैं मोबाइल कंपनी का बंदा बन जाऊँगा। मैं अगर एक सर्विस इंडस्ट्री में हूँ तो मैं उसका एम्प्लॉय हो जाऊँगा, एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ। यू हैव टू स्टेप इन टू द शू ऑफ द रेलिवेंट पर्सन सो दैट यू कैन ऑफ कोर्स अप्लाई द केस सिनेरियो ऑन टू द आंसर्स दैट यू आर राइटिंग। अगर वो नहीं किया बेटा तो मार्क्स नहीं मिलेगा। नॉट आंसरिंग द क्वेश्चन दैट इज बीइंग आस्क्ड, क्राइम है कश्मीर जी, क्राइम। जो पूछा ही नहीं बेटा उसका आंसर क्यों कर रहे हैं? जो पहले पढ़ो वो क्या पूछ रहा है बेटा, फिर उसका आंसर करेंगे ताकि हमसे गलती ना हो। बिल्कुल ठीक है साहब। फेलियर टू प्रोवाइड एवरीथिंग दैट द रिक्वायरमेंट स्पेसिफाइड, क्राइम है खुशी जी। 2 चीज़ें पूछी गई हैं, दोनों का आंसर देना है बेटा। एक का आंसर दोगे तो मार्क्स नहीं मिलेंगे। कई बार एग्जाम में नजर आएगा बेटा कि वो बोलेगा 1 दिस 2 दिस एंड दिस। एंड को समझो बेटा, मुझे दोनों रिक्वायरमेंट आंसर करनी है। एक रिक्वायरमेंट आंसर करने से देव जी काम नहीं बनेगा, और बिल्कुल नहीं बनेगा। पुअर टाइम एलोकेशन, मैंने बहुत प्यार किया अपने पहले क्वेश्चन से। जनरली क्या होता है, पहले क्वेश्चन से वी रियली फॉल इन लव, बहुत अच्छा लिखा पर टाइम बहुत ज़्यादा लगा दिया। अब क्या हुआ, आखिर वाले क्वेश्चन के लिए टाइम नहीं बचा, लग गई, बैंड बज गई, छूट गया। बिग टाइम प्रॉब्लम। वी हैव टू डू जस्टिस टू ईच एंड एवरी क्वेश्चन इन द एग्जाम। कुछ भी मिस नहीं करूँगा, पुअर टाइम एलोकेशन नहीं होने देनी है। पुअर लेवल ऑफ टेक्निकल नॉलेज, ये तो मैं बिल्कुल भी बर्दाश्त नहीं करूँगा। अपूर्वा जी, वी हैव टू डेमॉन्स्ट्रेट राइट टेक्निकल स्किल्स। जैसा कि मैंने कहा, अगर बच्चे ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आए जिस क्वेश्चन का आपको जवाब नहीं आता हो या नहीं पता हो, तो मैं अपनी कॉमन सेंस लगा के उसको आंसर कराऊंगा। किसी भी मॉडल का नाम देव मैं नहीं लिखूंगा। मैंने नहीं लिखना पोर्टस डायमंड, मैंने नहीं लिखना पिस्टल, मैं तो सिर्फ एनालिसिस दे के आऊँगा। कोई मॉडल एग्जाम में काम नहीं करेगा बेटा। What would work is the knowledge that you have from those models being applied to that kind of a scenario that is given in the exam, वही मेरी जीत का कारण बनेगा। बात समझ में आती है बेटा? बिल्कुल आती है। A specific comment जो एग्जाम में मुझे मिला, it was concerning to see some candidates still failing to read the task requirements carefully. resulting in them not answering the question that is being asked or not answering the whole requirement. Crime है ना बेटा, क्राइम है अगर ऐसी कोई चीज़ लिखी जा रही है तो क्राइम है ना बेटा. हमें तो दूसरों की गलतियों से सीखना है बेटा, हमने वो गलतियाँ बिल्कुल और बिल्कुल नहीं करनी हैं. This is the recent March-June 2025 report, my friend. Do not forget that these are the mistakes that folks have been doing. We are FinTrammers, sir. We are not gonna be repeating that. Come what may. I'm loving you, my friend, for that. That is the mantra we really need to have to ensure that we are not missing on this. All right, some suggestions. I think we've already spoken on this. We have to structure our answers logically, balance in terms of depth of the discussion and of course breadth of the points to be made, covering the most important points first, not padding out the unnecessary information, not making same points more than once, avoid copy pasting without any reason, and of course professional skills are to be surely demonstrated in the exam. Come what may, raft भी बच्चे अगर कर लिया तो भगवान श्री कृष्ण भी आके ना आपकी नैया को धक्का ही लगाएंगे पास करने के लिए. अगर राफ्ट भी नहीं किया अश्विन जी तो भगवान श्री कृष्ण सामने खड़े हो जाएंगे कि नहीं बेटा आगे नहीं जाने दूंगा. तो राफ्ट भी तो बेटा फॉलो करनी ही करनी है in order to make sure that we are not missing on to this. Is that clear? Yes, sir. All right, moving on, my friend. Let's begin our day one. Let's begin in terms of what we really want to cover, what is there in store for us. Specifically, I would say I'll start off with having the syllabus area in front of you. Many of the students, they at times do is that they cherry pick the topics and they try leaving some of the syllabus areas. Please ensure, guys, that you're not missing on any of these syllabus areas. Every syllabus area is important. You have all the sessions available, my friend, with you. Do not miss on any of the syllabus areas. It's very important, guys, that we are not undermining the importance of even small things, because examiner can give you anything in the exam. Very important that we are not missing on any syllabus area. Do not forget, guys, do not forget this, that in the strategic business leader exam, there are 100 marks from which you will be rated out, but you only have to write the exam of 80 marks. 20 marks is how you write the exam, which is how you demonstrate the professional skills in the exam. Very important, guys, that we do not undermine the importance of this. Professional skills are the super important thing. We should know each and every professional skill, and we should also know in terms of that how are we applying that to that kind of a scenario. Come what may, खुशी जी, हमने इस चीज़ को मिस बेटा नहीं करना है. Come what may. Let's jump on, my friend. Jump on to really target some of the important areas that I've picked up for you to really not miss on the exam. Very important, guys, that we are not missing on these areas, because these are the super important one that you should be targeting. These are the four major areas, my friend. I want everyone to concentrate in the coming 3 days. These 4 areas can be a game changer, my friend, for all of you who are appearing for the exam, because 90%, if not more, 90% of your total marks would be from these 3 areas. First 3 areas, of course, fourth is the pre-seed material, but first 3 areas would give you at least 90% of marks. Do not really forget on that. Very important, my friend, that we know all of these 4 areas in detail before we really set out for the exam. Leadership and the strategy related area is the first one, my friend. How can you be a strategic business leader of an organization without having the right leadership traits in yourself, and of course without having done the entire strategy in terms of how one should be doing and of course delivering that in the context of an organization? Let's say, and I've been part of various organizations, what is the role that is being expected out of me as a leader of an organization? One of the roles that is being expected out of me as a leader of an organization is that I should be able to manage the business as is, or as it is, in terms of managing the status quo. Okay, good. Then my next role, or my second set to my role, is that I should be able to manage the growth of the business, thinking about the growth, thinking about what should I be doing more, whether in country, outside country, with these products, more products, and so on and so forth. What can I do more? While I think of that, another important aspect is that what should I be doing with the risk that I'm getting exposed to? Fair enough. What should I be doing from the standpoint of having right internal controls in an organization? Very right, very good. What should I be doing from the standpoint of technological changes or advancements or innovations that are happening? Very right, sir. Very important, very imperative, and so on and so forth. What should I be doing from the overall project standpoint in the organization? Yes, sir. What should I be doing from the change standpoint? Yes, sir. What should I be doing from the standpoint of disruptions that are happening? Yes, sir. Isn't that something very basic that you would get exposed to when you would hit any organization? Yes, sir. If this is those I would say sort of areas, if these are like those sort of areas that you would get exposed to when you would get into an organization, why would strategic business leader exam would not have it in the exam? They would certainly have it, my friend, and they always have these kind of things in the exam. They always throw you under the bus to really understand that do you know in terms of how you should be handling, how you should be doing, or how you should be progressing, how you should be really replying, how you should be really addressing, how you should be really answering in these kind of scenarios when you would get exposed to that in the real life scenario. What kind of leadership skill you would demonstrate in a company which is getting exposed to so many other things? What is the strategy that you would need to have if you have to acquire somebody, if you are going to get into a particular geography, if you're going to launch a particular product, if you're really stopping or discontinuing any kind of company or product or services and whatnot? What would you do from the organizational management standpoint as far as the overall management is concerned? What would you do from the management of control standpoint? What kind of controls you would have in different kind of industry, whether it is airline, whether it is let's say cloud computing, whether it is let's say a gymnasium, whether it is the FMCG, whether it is an IT company, and so on and so forth. What would you do therein at that point in time? A big question mark. And if you know that, then you have to really give the examiner not only the understanding of that concept, but also how would that concept relates to the scenario that is given in the question. So you would learn the theory, and then you would learn in terms of how you would apply that theory to the practical exam, and what you would do that is something examiner always looks upon. And that is the reason, my friend, when you would now sit for your exam in the upcoming attempt, what is really imperative for you or gonna be important for you is that you're able to understand the requirement of the question, you know the concept, you understand the concept, relate that concept to the question, and then answer that. You have to make your question, make your answer very much relevant to that industry. If you're handling the airline industry, be the CEO, CFO, controller of the airline industry. If you're handling the leather industry, become a leather expert. If you're handling the car manufacturing industry, think as if you are manufacturing the car. You have to step into the shoe, my friend, in order to get the right answer from yourself. This is the mistake, my friend, many of the students do by just writing the theory. Writing the theory will not gonna be giving you marks in the strategic business leader exam. You have to correlate to the requirement of the question, and also in the context of the industry that has been given to you, and then it would be in a classical answer, and that is what you really need to do. I keep highlighting that, my friend, as I've been doing that in the sessions. What is really going to be key over here is that you're not doing these mistakes. You're stepping onto the shoe of the CEO, CFO, board of director, controller, and whatnot of that particular company, and then thinking about as to what can go wrong, what is right for you, what is not going to be the right fit for you, what is going to be the right fit for you, and so on and so forth, and then taking decision for yourself. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now, if you're really going to become a strategic business leader, can you run away from the technology and the disruption that is happening? These Swiggies of the world, these Zomatos of the world, these Zooms of the world, and so on and so forth, the way they have been changing the economy, the changing the maths, the Paytms of the world, the way the industry is really changing, or the transactions are really changing. They're really wanting strategic business leader to be able to understand these innovations, understand these disruptions, and seeing as to how would that impact. The recent exam, the question that you would have seen, and if you have given it, but if you have not, the question that came up was that they were implementing one of the recent technological development in their company, or recent technological change in the company, which was really warranted. So if you're really thinking about that kind of a change, you being the CFO, CEO, controller of an organization, how should you be thinking about it is something that is going to be the game changer. You should know that what are your plus and minuses, and we'll talk on that in a while when we'll touch upon the strategy. But what is really important is, one, of course, you should understand what does this technology mean for the organization on one side, and two, if we will implement that, do I have a strength? What kind of weaknesses I have? Would this be a right preposition? Would this work? And so on and so forth. That you can only answer if you'll step into the shoe of that CFO, of that CEO, of that controller, of that business analyst in that company. I always say, I'm sure when the FinTrams would correlate that, I always say, step into the shoe of that particular person who is dealing that scenario in that context. I'll become a business analyst of an airline industry if it is a question of an airline industry. I'll become a CFO of a car manufacturing organization if a question is of car manufacturing organization. Because when you'll go over there, when you'll have that as a position, you'll start thinking of like that. Then you would not go bizarre. In general, you may think so many other things, but when you'll become a car manufacturing CFO, then your concentration would be more, because now you know that I am managing a car business, which is a capital intensive business, wherein I would have spent, or I had good amount of investment in my assets, in my manufacturing unit, which would have highest or big depreciation, which would have huge labor cost, and so on and so forth. So when you step into the shoe of a CFO or a CEO or a controller of a car manufacturing organization, your mind start thinking like that. When your mind start thinking like that, then your answer to the questions are also are going to be headed on the same lines. Very important, guys. Do not take this lightly. I'm telling you, with various discussions that I've had with students around the world who have been a very successful FinTrammers, they have been saying this, that this mantra has really helped them do well in the exam, because they have really taken the seat at the table of becoming or wearing the hat of that particular person, and have answered in the context of that particular industry, that particular company, taking into consideration the concepts that they had at the back of their mind. We have practiced that a lot, my friend, in the revision bootcamp. Please go and see the past examination questions again. That is gonna be giving you an edge. Do not forget on that. I just wanted to repeat this like a broken record. Please do not forget that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now, coming on to the last, which is not the least, we will be covering pre-seen material of the upcoming exam on the last day. Do not forget that. We would be covering that together, my friend, in order to kill that in the best possible way. Do not really miss on to that. All right. Now, coming on to the examples of the areas that we'll be covering. This is the expected list, my friend, that we have, or I have for you, that we'll be covering from the syllabus area standpoint. These are the areas which I said I've cherry picked for you, that I really want to go through with you, just to ensure that you have the holistic edge over all these areas. We will be covering the cultural web, which is very important from the leadership standpoint, and of course, how to change that culture. I would be giving you a mnemonic over there also, of course, to help you in terms of having an edge, and of course having the holistic view in terms of what you should be doing when the question really comes your way. Do not forget, my friend, while we do that, we will also talk on various tips and tricks, and of course various ways the examiner has been asking that, and what is the way to answer that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Going on, we'll be covering from the governance standpoint, we'll be covering, the Mendelow's framework. We'll be also talking on the corporate governance principles, the integrated reporting, again, very important thing, my friend. We'll be talking on that too. And of course, while we do that, we'll add on various other areas, my friend, that you have in your mind. So if you have anything that really comes your way or in your mind, do not forget writing a question onto ourselves. You can also post your questions on, just below this video, or of course in the chat box. You should keep posting the questions, so that towards the end, if there is anything that I can pick up, I'll certainly pick up and I can really tell you that this is what you should be doing. The intention of this session is that I should be able to resolve a hell lot of doubts for yourself, what you really have in your mind as far as the exam is concerned. The upcoming exam is something that I'll be killing, sir. I would kill the SBL exam in the best possible way. I'm a proud FinTrammer, sir, and that is what I really want to carry from this room. You have to be a proud FinTrammer, and for that I really need you 100% with me. Promise me that, I can promise you result. Is that clear? Yes, sir. From the strategy standpoint, we'll be covering PESTEL, the Porter's Diamond, Porter's 5 forces, and soft matrix, BCG matrix is something that I picked up for us to be covering. Do not forget that, my friend. Do not forget that we have only taken up few of the pointers, few of the topics over here. There are many others that we have not picked up. That doesn't mean that those are not important, but there is from the revision standpoint, I have picked up few of the specific areas that I really want you to ensure that you're not missing onto it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. From the risk standpoint, we'll be covering, the TARA strategy, the COSO framework, very important. We'll also be covering, my friend, the e-businesses, the disruptions, the cyber security. Again, the kind of changes that are happening are very important. The big data, cloud computing, and so on and so forth. We'll also be talking on the internal controls components and the internal audit. Again, very important aspect. We'll also be talking on the strategic change, project management, and the POPIT framework. We are also going to be covering various technical articles, my friend. Now, this is something I really want you to carry along with you. While we have inculcated and of course incorporated many of the contents of these technical articles into our sessions, any which ways, and you've covered that. I know that. But what is going to be important over here is, why my tone go up and go down? Because I want you to be awake, my friend. I do not want you to sleep. You have to be with me for the upcoming 2-3 hours. I really want to give you 100%, my friend, and you should be really, willing and looking forward for taking that from me. What is really important is that when I fly to your country, your state, your city, my coffee should be outstanding, because after you clear your exam, you have to certainly treat me with the cup of coffee. And I guess I can tell you guys with a very much, a proud feeling that I have my coffees outstanding around the world now, and you are the only reason for it, because you have lived with me, and you have, you have beared me in these sessions to ensure that I'm able to add value to yourself. And I say it very proudly that I have coffee outstanding all throughout the world. You can take the benefit of it, and of course I can take my coffee once you have cleared it. But what is really imperative is that for these 3 sessions, for these sessions of revisions, and of course full course and the revision boot camp, you should be with me 110%. There is no compromise on that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. We will be covering various technical articles, as I said, and of course while we do that, we will also talk on what is the best tips and techniques to really handle those technical articles, and of course the kind of questions that you may really see over there. That is again something to look forward to, and of course answer that over there. All right, some of the other important areas that we'll be covering, and we'll try to have the complete hang of it, is to have the understanding of various professional skills. We have 5 professional skills: communication, analysis, evaluation, skepticism, and commercial acumen. We'll be going through all of that, and of course while we do that, we'll also talk on kind of questions that you may really see in the exam, and of course if you really see that, how one should be answering that. We'll also be talking on various exam techniques, whether it is reading skills, writing skills, time management, and of course formats. Format is going to be the key over here. We'll be talking on that, and of course how should you be killing the exam is something from the format standpoint we will really get into. And of course, last but not the least, towards the end we'll also be touching upon the Q&A. We'll be talking on various doubts and queries that you may have from the examination standpoint, from your preparation standpoint. And as I said, if there is any, keep posting onto the chat, keep posting onto the video to ensure that I'm able to really tell you what exactly you should be doing from the examination standpoint. Is that clear? Yes, sir. I'm loving you, my friend, the kind of patience that you are showing to me. I'm loving you that. All right. Moving on to the 4 major areas to really concentrate in the exam. I am starting off with the leadership and the strategy related area. Very important, guys. Very important that we are not missing onto it. Leadership and strategy is one of the areas that examiner always have in the exam. And the weightage, if I can really tell you, the weightage of these 2 important things, which is leadership and strategy, can be approximately 40 to 50% at times in your exam. Sir, 40 to 50%? What are you saying? Yes, my friend, it at times goes up to 40 to 50%. They really test you very hard on this area, and we would be spending good amount of time in terms of understanding all of this that you really need to know, just to make sure that you're not missing it and doing the mistake. Now, one thing that I've done over here, my friend, is what I've done is that I've tried compartmentalizing the kind of questions that you generally get in this area, and I have tried giving you what you should be doing. One of the important area, or one of the important issue that I've seen in the strategic business leader exam is that many of the students say that, sir, we do not know which model to be applied where. Sir, we understand model, sir. We understand theory. We have understood. Completely understood. No issue. Easy, sir. We've already done it, sir. Sir, we've done in BCom, sir. We've done in MBA, sir. It's an easy one, sir. I think it's a plain vanilla thing, sir. No problem, sir. But, sir, when it comes to question, no. When it comes to exhibit, no. Sir, it is very confusing, sir. We do not know what to write, sir. We do not know how do we write, sir. We do not know which model to be applied where, sir. It is very confusing, sir. This is a very common statement, my friend, that you would hear from anyone and everyone who is appearing for the strategic business leader exam. And guys, I'm just not joking for it. When you will appear for yourself, when you prepare yourself, you would certainly get to know this kind of a scenario, that this is a very unique problem, or a very common problem. I not say unique, a very common problem, and you are not unique for it. Very common problem that students have, that they do not know, as to what they should be writing in that particular scenario. That is where what I've done, my friend, from the leadership and strategy related area, what I've done is I've tried compartmentalizing that into 3 important buckets. And of course, we'll deep dive into some of the areas, but this is something I really want you to at least start off with, because if you have already prepared, I'm assuming that many of you who are attending this session would have already prepared for the exam, and you already know, I would say holistically, what the overall content is all about. And you would have gone through the models, you have gone through the syllabus areas, the theories, and so on and so forth. You've already gone through that. Now you're attempting the questions, you're trying to answer, you're struggling at a bit, you're doing the past exam questions, and so on and so forth. So you're really on the cusp of really doing things just before your exam. Now, if this is something that really comes your way, this would act as a Sanjeevani booty. This would really act as to an extent, this would really be your raft to clear your strategic business leader exam, if you're really if you can really do an excellence on this. Now, why do I say that? There are generally 3 kind of questions that you would see in the exam, and very common, right? And this actually relates to the thing that I really started off saying, that what would you do in an organization? So let's say if I'm a CFO of BCG, what would I do? Many of the times I have to keep assessing, what all are my strength areas of my organization, or what all are weaknesses of my organization where I need to work upon. What all are the strength areas of my organization which I can really capitalize on, and so on and so forth. So if I really have to keep doing that, what is the intent that I have? I'm assessing myself again and again to ensure that I am able to take the right decision at right point in time in a right way. So what does that mean? I'm effectively assessing and doing the self-introspection of myself to see that where do I have strength so that I can really do well on that front, and where do I have weakness so that I can improve on it. This is the first question or first area that examiner really tests you on, which is doing the strategic analysis or position analysis or the environmental analysis. You would always, and I can tell you, take down the past 10 years papers, you would always see something on this coming up in the exam, wherein he'll tell you that, or he can ask you in a different way. And I've given some of the examples. There can be many, but some of these examples I've picked up from the past exams. He might tell you, analyze company strategic position, or he might say, analyze the environment and how does that impact. He might say, what are the key factors for you to be successful, or what are the key factors for you to implement this, or do you think that you should be able to manufacture this product considering where you are, and so on and so forth. So whatsoever he's asking over there, he's basically asking you that, do you know your strength? Do you know your weakness? Do you know your position? Have you done your position analysis? Have you done your strategic fitment? Have you done your environmental analysis? Have you done the strategic analysis of yourself? Effectively, he is asking you to do the self-introspection. This is the first area which is very prominent in the exam, my friend. Do not forget that. I would be not surprised if you would get to see something like this in the exam. Surely you would have it. One. Second, you would also get to see an assessment. Now I'm a CFO of BlackRock. I know I'm doing very good, hunky-dory, everything is fine. And then a proposal comes to me. BlackRock is thinking about acquiring a company. Again, I'm just making this out. Do not take names to be the names. It's just an example. BlackRock is thinking of acquiring a company. Now, you have to think about that. Would that be good from the financial or non-financial perspective for yourself or not? Is that a good decision? Or you're thinking about investing not only in the company but also into some of the proposal that has come your way, be it a technology or be it a people, people kind of investment also we make, right? All of those proposals, all of those areas, you keep getting, my friend, on day in and day out in the organization. What would you do? You would do cost benefit analysis. Very simple. But from the strategic business leader standpoint, you would not only look for finance, you would go beyond finance and you would also look for the non-financial aspect of it. That is what the real business guy would do. He would analyze what really goes on to the cost, what really goes on to the revenue, what is the cost benefit that I have, and he will also say that, okay, this is the cost benefit, but this is the non-financial area that I have to look forward to. Culture, people, fitment, reputation, risk, non-financial factors, but very important. I would be seeing on this. Most of the exam would have a question on this. They'll give you the proposal, they'll give you something to really talk on and do the financial and non-financial analysis. We, by default, my friend, we are very good on financial analysis, I can tell you. Most of us are good on financial analysis and bad, quote unquote, control me, control you, bad on the non-financial analysis. We have to balance this, my friend. We have to be equally good on both the aspects. If you really have to do well in the exam, you have to do a good financial analysis that this really makes sense. And many of the times, financial analysis is already given in the question. You just have to validate that or put the pointers or take out the pointers from it. But you also have to do the good non-financial analysis. Very important. Got it, sir? This is the second area that we get an exam question, sir. Got that? Third one, very important. I can tell you this with very much, I would say, seeing the precedence. I'm very much confident that, if you get something like question, like pointer number 3, which is decision making, if you get something like that, then that effectively means that approximately 40 to 45 marks are coming from leadership and strategy area. Because if you get a question on decision making, then effectively he'll give you one thing, which is like, so generally question has 2 parts or 3 parts. Let's say, you get a question on decision making. The first part will be like of 24 marks, 25 marks, which will talk on, evaluating any proposal, let's say proposal to acquire, or let's say, a proposal to close, closure of the business and so on and so forth. So on the one hand, you'll be evaluating, and on the other hand, they may ask you a question on, let's say, commenting on the internal environment or commenting on the overall non-financial analysis, financial analysis. So effectively what they're really looking forward to is that they would holistically split it up in a way that 24 marks or 10-15 marks here and there will make it like 40, 35, 36, 40 marks kind of a question, and all of that is something that you would be able to answer if you know the leadership and strategy well in the exam.
That is the importance of strategy and leadership as an area. That is what you really need to know from the examination standpoint if this area really comes up. But sir, this is not right, sir. Really, we are not happy, sir. Why? Sir, we are really not happy that you're telling us that these three areas that may come in the exam. So this is okay. No, we knew na, that these three areas will come. We somehow always had the understanding that strategy is highly tested, leadership is highly tested, and we always know that positioning thing will come up, or assessment will come up, or decision making will. We somehow knew na, sir. But what we didn't know is how to answer this. What is the right way of answering this? So that is where we needed your help, sir. What are we talking, sir? I'm loving you, my friend, for that. I'm really loving you. I really love you for this. Because if you're asking me this, then you're in the right direction of thinking about what's right next. And that is what I've done, my friend. I'm not only giving you that these are the areas that will be tested in the exam, but I'm also telling you now how you should be addressing this area. And this slide says a lot, my friend. And I can tell you, if you have done well on this slide, if you have really done well on this slide, then even Lord Krishna on this earth will not be able to stop you clearing this exam. Very important, my friend, that we do not miss on this slide. Very important that we do not miss on this discussion. Very, very, very important that we are understanding this in entirety as to what you should be doing when a strategy question really comes up your way. Very important that we are not missing on to it. So let's understand this. If there is a question, my friend, in the exam, that really tells you, understand, analyze company's environment, external environment, strategic positioning, internal factors, and so on and so forth. What you should be doing over there is something that is written in yellow. What it says is that you should be doing or applying pastel over there. If it is an external environment that you are being asked in the exam, you have to apply pastel. The political, the economic, the social, the technological, and so on and so forth. You have to see through all of these factors to ensure that you're understanding the environment of an organization from the external standpoint, if that is the need. Very important that we are not missing on to that. We will always analyze internal as well as external factors. Always do that. But from the external standpoint, we follow pastel, of course, if it is for the organization. But when it comes to, having a analysis done from the industry standpoint, let's say I am going to be doing an analysis as to how I have strength and weaknesses. Let's say I'm I'll take the same example that I'm into car manufacturing, and I'm thinking about having the edge or having the pluses and minuses from the standpoint of car manufacturing organizations or car industry. Then effectively what I really need to do over there is I have to follow the Porter's diamond. 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 Sir, why are you repeating, sir? I am repeating that, my friend, so that you do not miss on that. Whenever we are thinking about industry level analysis, you have to follow the Porter's diamond. Do not. Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed on that. It is Porter 5 forces. My bad. Extremely sorry for that. Whenever you are doing an industry level comparison or industry level analysis, you have to follow Porter 5 forces. I'm extremely sorry for that. I just went by, in terms of what is being written over here. You have to follow the Porter's 5 forces when it comes to the industry level comparison. I'll start from the scratch. I think that is important. When you're analyzing the external environment, my friend, you have to follow the pastel that gives you how you are doing from the external environment standpoint, whether it is political, whether it is whether it is economical, whether it is social, whether it is technological, and so on and so forth. So effectively your environmental analysis is being done by the pastel. When it comes to the industry level analysis as to what kind of pluses and minuses you have from the industry, you do Porter's 5 forces. You understand 5 forces in terms of whatever they are, you understand that, and then you take a decision. We'll talk on Porter 5 forces in a while. I do have a separate slide for it just to give you an insight. When it comes to the geography, thinking about you launching a product in a particular country, thinking about you getting into a particular country or getting out of a particular country, what you do is you follow a Porter's diamond there. You follow a Porter's diamond there. You follow a Porter's diamond there. Sir, why are you repeating, sir? I'm repeating this, my friend, like a broken record. We do not really miss on to that. You have to analyze the external environment by the pestle. Got it, sir? You have to do the industry level understanding or get the industry level understanding from the Porter's 5 forces. I get that, sir. You have to do a Porter's diamond from the standpoint of getting an understanding about the geography. So if there is a geography level analysis that you really need to do, you have to follow the Porter's diamond. Porter's diamond, Porter's 5 forces, pestle is a common thing that you do from the positioning analysis, but you only have to see what positioning you're doing in that context. If you're only thinking about where you are right now, you would be doing pestle. If you're thinking about that from the industry parlance, because the question would say that in terms of the edge that you have in the industry, you would be doing Porter's 5 forces. If you're thinking about particular geography, whether you're going to be getting into a country or getting out of the country, you would be doing Porter's diamond over there. Get that, sir? Get that very clear, my friend. That is what you'd be doing from the strategic analysis standpoint. Now, all of this is external analysis, but you also have to see in terms of what all are the internal factors that are positive for you. Do I have a right head count? Do I have right people? Do I have right technology? Do I have right funds? And so on and so forth. All those internal factors are also taken into consideration for the purpose of doing your strategic or positioning analysis. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Whenever the question on strategic analysis gets in, we do have one technical article today that we'll be covering in a while, which talks on the strategic analysis. But whenever you get to see something on the strategic analysis, think about pestle, think about Porter 5 forces, think about Porter's diamond, and think about internal factors. Very important, guys, that we're not missing on to this. We should know which model to be applied where. Now we know, sir, the normal external environment analysis, we have to follow pestle. The analysis from the industry level standpoint, we will be following the Porter's 5 forces. When it comes to different geographies, sir, we'll be following Porter's diamond. And internal factors, we any which ways have to consider in whatsoever case possible. We are loving you, sir. I'm also loving you, my friend. That is what you should be following. That is the right approach, and that is the mantra I want you to live with. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now comes the assessment, my friend. When you are being supposed to do an assessment, as I said, you have to do the cost benefit analysis. Now you may have to compute the net present value over there, IRR over there. If the discounting factor is not available, then the profits over there, and so on and so forth. So on one side, you'll be doing the cost benefit analysis, and on the other side, you should be doing the the non-financial analysis too, which is more to do with that, if I really get into it, what would be the impact on my people? Is that really aligned culturally to me? What kind of things that may go bad, may go right, more from the non-financial factor standpoint, whether it is attrition, whether it is having more people or right people, whether it is cultural alignment, whether it is, we having, legal issues, we having, complex people issues, and so on and so forth. So depending upon all of those non-financial factors, we finally decide that yes, should we be going, should not be going, and so on and so forth. What is really important over here is that we are doing financial as well as non-financial factors taken into consideration, and then deciding the right course of action for yourself. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now, coming on to decision making, my friend. Now, decision making effectively tells you, now this is a proposal. Should I be going forward to that or not? Should I be really, living by that or not? Is something that is very common and very pertinent in the exam. And if that really comes your way, what you should be doing is that you should be doing all that is being mentioned in yellow over here. What it really says is that you have to do strategic fitment, which is nothing but what you're seeing above, which is the strategic positioning match and the financial and non-financial consideration. What you really add on to this fitment piece is that you also do cultural match, whether the cultural match is there, whether what you're really deciding of is good from the future orientation standpoint, will it work for you in the future, and so on and so forth. So effectively, when you have done the financial and non-financial evaluation, when you have done the future orientation, when you have done the cultural match, when you have done this, the overall strategic positioning, which is pestle, Porter 5 forces, Porter's diamond, or as the case may be, internal analysis, then comes the feasibility and acceptability. So when I say acceptability is that, whatever decision that you're taking, considering all that what we just spoke, should you be going considering that, your management would be in agreement or not. So effectively, the acceptability is that your management would agree to that or not. Do you know that? If they agree, then of course it is a go ahead. If they do not agree, then of course, you have to highlight that management is a concern over there. So from the feasibility standpoint, it is a concern, and from the acceptability standpoint, it is a concern, and then comes the feasibility, which is that do you have funds or not in terms of doing what is being supposed to be done in the question. And if you have tick in the box, right, from acceptability to feasibility, and from the let's say positioning perspective, from the cultural perspective, from the future orientation standpoint, or from the non-financial financial consideration standpoint, if you have tick from all, go for it. There is absolutely no issue with it. This is what you should be doing, and this is what anybody would do in that kind of a scenario. Is that clear? Yes, sir. This slide really tells you, my friend, in terms of approach that you should be following. When it comes to strategic analysis, what is that you should be doing? When it comes to assessment, what is that you should be doing? When it comes to decision making, what is that you should be doing? You should really know it. And I'm telling you, if there is a question on decision making that really comes your way, it is going to be giving you at least 40 to 45 marks or 50 at times. It really depends on what kind of question really throws at you. But if that really comes your way, you should know that you have to do the strategic positioning, you have to do the overall cultural mismatch, or cultural match kind of a thing, or future orientation kind of a thing, and of course financial and non-financial consideration. This effectively gives you the strategic fitment, and then you have the acceptability and feasibility being added onto it. They call it SFA analysis or SAF analysis, as the case may be, but we'll not go that in terms of just memorizing that. We'll go to the logic, go to the basics in terms of why it is the way it is, and we can completely understand that for the purpose of making the decision, these factors are very important. The cultural match is very important. The future orientation of our decision is very important. The strategic positioning, and of course having the right positioning done basis the various models is going to be very important. The financial and non-financial consideration is going to be very important, and then acceptability by management is going to be the game changer, and then comes the feasibility, which is having funds for it. If we have the tick in the box, then let's go forward with it. If we do not, then we have to mention that accordingly. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Very important, guys, that we do not miss on that. This slide is gonna be the game changer if you really implement that. And I'm telling you, with with detailed discussions that I've had with various kids, and the past exams, all of the questions that you would see in the exam would be either lying in one of the buckets, and you have to answer that considering this. If you are able to answer that, you are fulfilling the need of the examiner, and that is what he really needs. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Should we go forward? Yes, sir. All right. Moving on to strategic position analysis. I think I've covered that. If you're doing the macro environmental analysis, which is external analysis, you have to follow the PESTLE. Industry specific areas, if you really have to refer, you have to do the Porter 5 forces. And then from the geography specific areas, you would need to do the Porter's diamond. You also would do the internal factors, my friend. And what makes you different is gonna be something that you should be knowing. You should know your organization pluses and minuses. We call it to be threshold and the strategic capabilities in terms of what do you have at the best in yourself is something that you should be considering from the strategic positioning standpoint. Then comes the assessment, my friend, and again these are some of the tips that I really have for you, that when you're doing the assessment, what you should be doing. The cost benefit implication is something that you should always do in terms of what that is. And if there is anything that is given in the question wherein and this is more to do with the fact that many of the times appraisal is already being given to you, analysis is already being given to you. If that is the case, always see for any kind of issues that you may have in the exam. Let's say NPV rate that is being used is right or wrong. Sales or cost, they're increasing or decreasing in a different way or in the same way. We should think about it. You should also talk on taxes, if they have not considered taxes. You should also talk on payback period, sensitivity analysis. Those are the things my friend, you would many of the times you would see in the exam from the context of the fact that they have already given you working in the exam. So when you're seeing that working, and some of the areas that are not clear to you, it is always good to mention that to the examiner, that these are the areas, because that would also showcase the examiner that you know so much. You're a really proud FinTrammer, and you really know so much about the case, so much about the context, that you're able to answer that and add value to the examiner. And he would also understand that yes, He's the guy who understands, has more holistic view, more broader view, and he's the guy to be the strategic business leader of an organization. That is the field that you really want him to live with, and that is what you should be following when you're thinking about working that is being given to you. Many of the times you would see some gaps over there, highlighting those gaps, or even saying that the rate that is being followed or being used is may need to go into further consideration, considering XYZ. So effectively you're raising that out, and of course sharing the examiner that you're understanding that and politely challenging that too in a way that is needed. You should also talk on the financial implication, any kind of funding issues that you may have when you do the financial evaluation, any kind of penalties, probable losses that you may have. Again, this form part of your financial analysis, because when you're doing the financial analysis, you're not only thinking it from the revenue standpoint, you're also thinking from the cost standpoint, and any kind of cost that you may see coming your way, you should be thinking about that, and of course having that. And you should also think about any kind of future impact or dilution. Again, the recent question that we saw in the exam was wherein we were thinking of let's say having a company and purchasing that company by the issue of shares. Now, one of the aspects that may come your way is that when you're purchasing a company through the shares, the existing shareholders would have a dilution, because you're issuing more shares, so they would have a dilution in terms of the percentage share that they have on the company. So that is again something, if you really see while you're doing the financial analysis, all of those pointers that if they really come onto your mind, you should be mentioning that, because the examiner really loves it. He really wants you to think that way and should be able to point out these important pointers to the examiner in the best possible way, because that is the industry. That's how industry really works. That's how you should be doing, and that's what you would be doing when you would step into an industry. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now, when it comes to the non-financial parameters, or non-financial areas, you should think about various things. As we just spoke, we should think about the people, the resource availability, not available, and so on and so forth. Kind of monitoring issues that you may have. You may also see the pestle, Porter 5 forces or Porter's diamond, from the non-financial factor standpoint, because many of these factors can be non-financial. It's like having high attrition, having high taxes, having high economic issues or inflation. All of those are non-financial factors to an extent, which may not be impacting your P&L right now, but may would impact it over a period of time. So all of those areas are to be considered from the assessment standpoint when you're thinking about giving a holistic answer of having the cost benefit done and also the non-financial factors done. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Coming on to the SAF analysis or SFA analysis, as you may want to call it. What happens over there is that if it is a decision making question, sir, it can go like 40 marks, sir. We can really know 40-45 marks. Who knows that? You have to do the strategic fitment, sir. So we already done that, sir. From the strategic fitment standpoint, we do the strategic positioning. We know, sir, pestle, we know Porter 5 forces, we know Porter's diamond, we know all of that, sir. We do cultural fitment, we know that, sir. We do future orientation, we understand that, sir. We do the positive assessment, that is the return, the financial versus non-financial factoring. We've done that, so we understand that. And then comes the acceptability, sir. We have to see that, will our leadership will accept it. If I'm listed company, then I have to see that, my board, CEO, would they accept it? If I'm not a listed company, then I have to see, my owners or my leaders, they would accept it or not. If, from the feasibility standpoint, I have to see that, do I have funds? Do I have resources available? Is there any legal complication being available, and so on and so forth. If you can capture these 3-4 slides, my friend, if you can capture these 4 slides, you're there. You're there from the examination standpoint. None of the question in the exam can be out, I would say, or will be outside the scope of what we have discussed in these 3-4 slides. Most of the question that really comes in the exam from the leadership and strategy standpoint are being covered by these 3-4 slides. These can be game changer for you, my friend. Do not undermine the importance of it. I'm telling you, this can really be a game changer for yourself. All that you really need to do is that follow this to the entirety, practice few questions on it, and to the FinTrammers, I can tell you, just go back and practice the revision boot camp. That is gonna be the game changer for you, my friend. It's gonna be the raft P that would take you from the C of SBL. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now that really brings me to a place wherein now we are starting on some of the important topics that we will be considering from the examination standpoint. If we have to start off with the first one, we have cultural web here. Now, if you really have to assess what? assess the organization from the cultural standpoint, I have a mnemonic for you. Mnemonic that can really help you know as to what you should be doing in the assessment of a cultural web. When you are assessing the cultural web, you have to do crops. You have to see crops. Now, what does this crops really means? C stands for the control systems. We have to think about that, organization has what kind of control system, whether it is a centralized system, decentralized system, whether it is a loose-ended, closely knitted, and so on and so forth. We have to see kind of control system an organization really have. All right. Then comes the R. R is nothing but rituals and the routine. We have to see the core belief that are there in the organization, what kind of routine an organization really follows, what is very common in that organization, what is not that common in the organization. Very important for us to get the perspective as to what this organization is all about. Then comes the organizational structure, that is O of crops. So C done, R done, O of crops means organizational structure. That will tell us that is my organization tall, narrow, wide, flat, depending upon what kind of organizational structure I'm really looking up to or really living with. I have to understand that what kind of organization this is. All right, sir. That would give me a perspective that what is really happening in my organization basis what the way we are being structured. All right, sir. That is C R O done, sir. Then comes the P. P is the power structure. Now, who are the leader of our organization? What is the way they are managing, a way of their management? How are they managing it is something that I really have to look forward to. Whether it is an autocratic leadership style or a participative leadership style, I really have to know that, sir. I really have to understand to ensure that I'm able to put a pulse on or get a pulse on in terms of what that is. That is nothing but the P of crops. Then comes the S. S stands for symbols. Now, what kind of jargons, acronyms, abbreviations, language that is being used in my organization? I can tell you, in BCG we used to have various acronyms. So once you'll understand that, once you are used to that, you're able to understand that what this organization is being using, what kind of jargons these guys really follow, and so on and so forth. So if you really want to do well in that organization, you have to understand those jargons, understand those areas, just to ensure that you're not missing on various important points. Then comes the stories. What has been the history, what has been the past, what has happened in the company at large, what has been the belief, what has been the successes, what has been the failures, and so on and so forth. So I would really be able to tell me that what really works well in the organization. So if you as an organization leader, if you being the leader of an organization, if you really have to understand that what can go wrong, or what is the organization all about, I have to see the crops to really understand that yes, this is what the organization is and this is what is all about. So for assessing the culture of an organization, crops is gonna be the key. You have to see if in case there is something that really comes your way from the strategic fitment standpoint, that you have to do the cultural fitment there. From the strategic fitment standpoint, you have to see through that how the culture is really aligned. If that is the case, you should know that you have to do the crops. You should know that which element talks on what. Once you know it becomes hell lot easier for you to really find out the information, and that is where the key is, or that is where you really have to do well. That at least once you know it, your mind will start working in that direction. So it is very important that we are not missing on the crops per se when it comes to the cultural thing. All right, now, sir, I know now that what is to be looked from the cultural standpoint. Now, many of the times you're being exposed to a question wherein you have to change the culture of an organization. If you have to change the culture of an organization, all that you really need to do is you have to understand UMISS. UMISS is the mnemonic that is being given, my friend, to ensure that you're not missing out getting the marks from the cultural question. What you really need to do on the UMISS side is U stands for understanding the culture, which is nothing but understanding the crops. Then mapping the organizational culture, map out as to what exactly it is. And then I stands for identify the changes, considering this the organization really is, this the culture of an organization is, not anything and everything needs to be changed. You should know that these are the elements that are needing a change. These are the elements that I might need to think through in terms of changing them or suggesting a change on. only look forward for those areas. Then strategize to get those changes done. When you really have to think about strategizing the culture, strategizing a change, you have to, of course, implement, maybe a puppet or maybe another model. So we'll talk on that also in a while in terms of, what that model is. But what is really important is that you should be able to strategize what is to be changed, and then comes the starting the implementation. You miss the crops, you miss the marks. Do not forget that. Crops is something that is needed to understand the culture of an organization, and you miss is the mantra to really follow in terms of understanding the culture and changing them. Very important, my friend. I have given you this mnemonic, particularly keeping things in mind that, examiner many of the times ask the questions. If you really ask question on this ground, you should know you miss the crops, you lose marks. You miss the crops, you lose marks. We are FinTrammers, sir. We are not going to be doing that. When it comes to culture, you should have things in your mind that you have to assess it on the C, on the R, on the O, on the P, on the S and S. You have to know crops. And then when you do that, you know that you have to apply the you miss over there. You have to understand, you have to map, you have to identify, you have to strategize, and you have to start implementation. You should have that in your blood, in yourself, to make sure that you're not missing onto it. I can tell you, my friend, very confidently, I've seen that in past with all my experiences, that if you have these things running on in your mind and you have a question on the culture, it becomes a hell lot easier for you to find out what is really needed in C, in R, in O, in P, in S, and in S. You know the crops. And then comes the only and only you miss over there, wherein you will understand, identify, map, strategize, and start the implementation of change. If you do that, you would get the marks out of it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. All right. Moving on to pestle, my friend. There's some of the very important pointers that we have picked up just to make sure that we are not missing on it. I'm sure, my friend, you know this. I'm sure you have seen this. I'm just trying to highlight few of the very important areas that you need to see in the exam, just to make sure that you're not missing onto it. All right. From the environmental analysis standpoint, we do pestle. We know, sir, political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. So we understand that, sir. Let me give you one more slide that would really help you in terms of what you should be doing, in all of these areas, and what you should be thinking through if this area really comes up in the exam. Let's say you get a question on the pestle analysis that really talks on that you have to do an analysis, whether it is internal, external, or whatever. You know that ultimately you are ending up doing a pestle there. Got it, sir? Then you should be thinking about PESTEL. Got it, sir? Then you should be thinking about, from the political standpoint, do you have government policy or stability there? Do you have government approval licensing requirement there? Do you have taxes or subsidy there? Do you have government intervention there? Do you have too much of a government change over there, or stability is a big time issue over there? All of these factors are to be considered from the political standpoint to really take the right decision for yourself. Got it, sir? From the economic standpoint, think about inflation, interest rates, recession, unemployment, and so on and so forth. Think on those areas. When it comes to economic thing, think on those areas to make sure that you're really pointing out these areas. The growth, what kind of, do we have an upturn in the economy, downturn in the economy? Think about that when you're thinking about the economic factors. All right. Thinking about social, thinking about population, thinking about income distribution, thinking about lifestyle, thinking about the age, the kind of age that the country has, thinking about attitude of working, thinking about your level of education. That would really help you in terms of deciding the right things, and so on and so forth. Social factors. Think out, I'm just giving a few examples, my friend. There can be many more. I'm just trying to be illustrative over here to tell you that these are things that you should be thinking about when it comes to the pestle. Got it, sir? T, technological. Think about government spending on research. Think about, the new discoveries, developments, industry focus on the technological effort. Think about the speed of technological transfer. Think about, do you have resources also or not? Think about, internet, online, how much of that is being penetrated. Are you in an area where technology is not there, internet is not there? Then technological advancement itself will go for a toss, and so on and so forth. Think on that. Then comes the, ecological or environmental, whatever you may call it. Think about environment. Think about, pollution. Think about the waste emission. There's a new technical article that also has that has come up that really talks on these kind of factors, and we'll cover that. I'm very soon on that. We'll cover that in detail to ensure that we're not missing on to that. But when it comes to ecological or environmental thing, you should really know that how would that impact, because this would really be impacting your holistic decision. Got it, sir? Then comes the legal. You think about taxation, think about kind of laws that are there in that country or in that company or in that region. Think about legislation that are really impacting you to work. Think about environmental protection laws if you have any. Think about patent, copyright, trademark. All of those things really impact, my friend, for you to take or work in that particular geography, in that particular domain, and so on and so forth. Always think about pastel on these lines. These are really good examples, my friend, what you really find in the exams. Do not forget that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Again, as I said, this list is an illustrative list. You can get more things, you can get less, but what is really important is that you're not missing out on these areas. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Moving on to Porter 5 forces, competitive forces. Do not forget, my friend, where do you use Porter 5 forces? Sir, when it comes to the industry-wide things, industry-wide analysis, we use Porter 5 forces to ensure or to understand where we are from the industry standpoint. There can be 5 factors to be considered. Number 1, threat to entry. Do I really need to, for example, car manufacturing? Can anybody enter into car manufacturing industry? No. Huge capex needed. Airline industry, huge capex needed. A small, mom and pop shop, anybody can open. So, threat to entry can be a big factor that you need to consider in terms of making any decision. Supplier part. Do you have a dependency on one supplier? Hindustan Petroleum, British Petroleum, 1 or 2 suppliers. Do you have that dependency? Or your suppliers are many? Depending upon that, you have to take the right decision. Threat to substitutes, what you're really into. Do you have many substitutes available, many competitors available? That would really define what kind of your strategy you should be, working for. What kind of strategy would be in that kind of a scenario. Do you have a buyer power? The entire thing that I really make is being consumed by only one buyer, which is the government. So I have a huge dependency on government. What kind of decision making that would have in that kind of a scenario? Do I have a bargaining power or not? And so on and so forth. Competition and rivalry, having more substitutes. So do you have a lot of competition in the market? Depending on what kind of competition that you would have in the market, you have to decide in terms of what should be the right course of action, and so on and so forth. Porter 5 forces, thinking about from the industry standpoint, you have to think about that, what is the right course of action for yourself, considering these 5 factors. What are you doing, where are you, and what you should be doing from the futuristic standpoint is something that you really need to know, really need to learn. Very important, my friend, that we should know that Porter 5 forces Porter 5 forces is used in the scenario wherein we are doing the industry-wide comparison or industry-wide analysis. Very important that we are not missing on to that. Coming on to the Porter's diamond. We know, sir, where we use Porter diamond, sir. I'm really wanting you to tell me. Where would you use Porter diamond? Sir, we use Porter diamond in the scenario wherein we are doing a geographical decision, sir. If you're getting into a country or getting out of a country, launching a product in a different country, and so on and so forth, we would be doing the Porter's diamond. I'm loving you, my friend, for that. That is what you really need to do. You have to do the Porter's diamond over there, wherein we have the factor condition. What kind of factor conditions are available in that country? Raw material, labor, what kind of things are being available? Good, very good. If they are not good, we have to take that decision. All right. Related and supporting industry being available. Very important, my friend. Wheresoever I'm going to Taiwan for manufacturing a leather product. Do I have a related and supported industry being available? Not like Italy, right? Leather products are very much famous in Italy. They have a very good leather product because they have a huge, related and supported, industry sector being available. Taiwan may not have it. I should not go there. All right. Firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. What kind of, rivalry I have? What kind of competition I have? What kind of substitutes I'm getting exposed to? It really would help me take the right decision for yourself. And what kind of demand conditions are there? Do you have a local demand or not? If I do not have a local demand, it's a big concern for me to go and manufacture over there, because then I'm totally dependent on the exports, and so on and so forth. These factors are considered from the Porter's diamond standpoint when you're taking a decision to get into or get out of a particular geography, my friend. You have to consider this. You may not name it, and again, not to say this again and again. You are going to implement a model in the exam without naming a model, and I keep saying that like a broken record in my class. Please do not mention a model in the exam. It is not warranted. What is really warranted is that you're really answering the question without naming a model, but going by the model. So you'll go, by factor conditions, demand conditions, related and supporting industries, or having the firm rivalry, and so on and so forth, firm strategy, and so on and so forth. You'll be going by this without really saying that you're implementing a Porter's diamond. If you're really be able to conceptualize and get all the pointers done in the format that is needed, you are there. You don't have to mention a model, but applying right model to the right question in a right way is going to be the game changer. Do not forget that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Moving on, my friend, we have the ants of metrics. That is nothing but the product, industry, market kind of a choice that you really need to make when you are really switching on and launching a product, in any country, in any geography, and so on and so forth. You have four areas being given by the NSOF. On one axis we have the market. Now that can be new market or existing market, and the other axis we have the product or services. So what they really say is that if you are thinking about entering into your own existing market and doing your own existing services, you're doing nothing but you are effectively doing the market penetration. So having same or existing market with the existing product is nothing but the market penetration strategy, which can only happen if you are able to demonstrate good amount of cost efficiency. So if I'm into a situation wherein I am only staying in my existing business or in existing market and only doing and living with my existing services, one thing that can only make me survive is that I'm able to differentiate my services, or I'm able to make it as cost efficient as possible. That is the only way to live and only way to survive. All right. Now, if it is an existing market and I'm launching an existing I'm launching a new product or a new service, then effectively it is more like expanding. So you're expanding yourself into new product and services. While you do that, you have to really take into consideration the kind of demand that you would have, and you should be able to fill in that. You should be able to get that at the right price point, and so on and so forth. When it comes to the new market and you're launching an existing product, it is more like you're developing your market. So it is more like market development, because you're going beyond your market and developing yourself into a different region, into a different country. But when you do that, do not forget that since you're going out of your market, and if it is out of your region, the geography really changes. So Porter's diamond really gets into the play. All right. Then if you are getting into a new geography and a new product, that is where the biggest challenge is, and that is what they call to be conglomerate diversification, wherein effectively what you're doing is that you're getting into a new area with a new product. It is very risky. You should be 110% sure in terms of what you're doing and why you're doing that. There has to be a right strategy for it, because there's a huge risk involved, and that risk has to be calculative enough. So you have to make sure that when you're writing an answer in relation to this, that answer really mention that you're really exposing yourself to various risks and really exposing yourself to various issues that you may get along your way, so that examiner really understand that you're really having NSOF matrix onto your mind, and this is what conglomerate diversification is all about. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now, coming on to the BCG matrix. Again, an excellent matrix, my friend. Most of the companies, I can tell you, most is the wrong word, all of the companies in the world can be put it across onto this matrix, because this matrix really takes care of all of the companies, and they can be at a different stage in their life, but this matrix really helps. And coming from BCG, I can tell you, we take pride in saying that we come from a company wherein our matrix is being used by anyone and everyone in terms of assessing themselves as to where they are, and this is what this matrix really says. On one axis we have the relative market share, and the other axis we have the market growth. What it really says is that anybody and everybody who starts a business would certainly start from question marks, as in their own relative share is low, wherein market growth can be high or low. So if the market growth is high and I'm low, I'm a question mark, because I don't know what is happening to me, why my share is not high. But if on the other hand, if I'm a question mark, I would always intend to become a star or a cash cow. If the market growth is very high, and my growth is also very high, I'm also doing very high, high in terms of my market share, then I'm effectively a star. So high market growth in market, and I have a high market share, so I'm a super good person over there, or a company over there, which ideally everybody would want to be. But most of the time you are not star, you become a cow, because you would certainly see market growth taking a dip, while you may maintain your share. So everybody would either want to be a star or a cow. Star is the case where market growth is very high and I'm able to get the highest market share out of it. Cow is a stage, or cash cow is a stage wherein market is while it is getting dipped, still I maintain a very high share. So I'm a cash cow there, because even in the falling market, I'm able to maintain my share. That can only happen if you have an exceptional service, exceptional brand, exceptional differentiation, good price point, and so on and so forth. But if market is low and my share is even low, then I'm effectively a dog there, and that is what I would always do not want to be get into. That is a place any company and every company would always avoid. The reason why BCG has come up with these matrices is that they effectively tell you that you should be investing more and more money onto your cash cows and stars just to maintain the share, and you should be spending as less as possible onto the dogs to make sure that you do not get into that domain. All the question marks should be diverging towards either to become a cash cow or the stars, and the investment in the companies should be made considering that into mind. If you get a question on this, you all have a better BCG metrics onto your back of the mind, and think about where you should be investing your money. Think about you becoming a cash cow or you becoming a star. Think on those lines. Do not try to get into the domain of dogs. That's not where you would want to be. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Moving on to, my friend, few of the technical articles that I really want you to get a refresher on. These technical articles are the ones which specifically talks on the areas of strategy and leadership. I really want to scan through these technical articles for yourself, and again to tell you in terms of what you should be doing when you get a question on these technical articles. I'll quickly move on to why this. This is to help the student, my friend, and this is something I've picked up from the technical article itself, that strategic analysis question generally have a problem because you have to analyze as to what you should be doing in that kind of a scenario. So this is to help the student how to read the strategic analysis question, and of course frame a comprehensive view of strategic analysis, and finally coming on to the conclusion. Candidates must ensure, and this is what technical article really says specifically, that candidates must ensure that they understand the detailed process of strategic analysis. And for that, what do they really need to do is they need to understand they should know as to where do they really want to go, what all are the constraints that are there, and if they know the constraints, then what are the key threats from the external environments that they have. And that is nothing but the Porter-5 force or pistol. We know that's but what is really important is that when you're doing the strategic analysis, any analysis and every analysis would want you to know that where do you want to go, and what all are the constraints that you have, and how is external environment either helpful or not so helpful to you. That is what you should be knowing, and that is what you should be addressing when it comes to the strategic analysis question. I think what we just started off with, when we said that these kind of strategy questions will come up, strategic analysis really circle that off, because it really helps you in terms of thinking as to what you should be doing in that kind of a scenario. Now, where do you want to go? Who are the key influencers in your organization? You should be knowing what kind of other stakeholders that you have. You should be knowing in terms of not the direct one but the indirect one, mainly the government, the employees, and so on and so forth, their suppliers, and of course think about this from the corporate vision standpoint. And again, you must have seen, my friend, when we have practiced a question in the class and of course in the revision boot camp, we have really circled down the organization's mission statement a lot, because ultimately your strategy should be somewhat dependent on what your organization is really wanting or thinking through, and your strategy should be somewhere circling off that this is what the overall goal of an organization is, and this is what we should be doing in this kind of a scenario. Now, I just wanted to give you examples of the constraints that you may get to see in the exam. When you're doing your analysis, in terms of that should you be going for a particular thing or not, you should also be thinking about the 6 M's, whether you have money or not, whether you have machinery or not, whether you have manpower or not, whether you have active market or not, whether you have material or not, or whether you can have a makeup or not, which is like, do you have any limiting factor? Does your culture supports this or not? So always have these constraints into your mind whenever you're taking any kind of strategic decisions. These can be food for thought, my friend, when you're thinking about whether it is a question on the external environment, whether it is a question on the financial and non-financial consideration, or whether it is a question on having an ultimate choice of decision making done. All of these factors would help you making that strategic decision, that should I know where do I know where you want to go, which is more like what is the mission statement of an organization. Do I know kind of constraints that I have, which is like 6 M's. Do I know the threats from the external environment, which we have already done, which is like port of 5 forces we have already done, pestle we have already done. Some of the tips that I may have to give you there is, which is something that we've already spoken. Read the question requirement first, which is very important. Spend time in terms of analyzing the situation. Keep highlighting the situation in the strategic analysis you would like to mention. Structure it and think of conclusion as to what the conclusion would be, which is like more like decision making. Write the problem issues observed with corresponding suggestions always, and be very, very professional. Examiner really likes it. What I'm really trying to highlight over here is that strategic analysis is something that you would anyway have to do in the exam in some shape or the other. But while you do that, always ensure that you're able to understand the constraint factors that are there from the organization standpoint, and of course what all are the external issues you are anyway covered in the pestle or port of 5 forces or porter's diamond, as the case may be. But having a understanding about the mission statement and understanding about your internal constraints can be very helpful in terms of deciding the right course of action. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now there is another technical article I really want to revise today, my friend, for you, just to make sure that you're not missing on that, because this is a very recent technical article which has come up, and I really want you to be having a complete hang of it, because even in the last exam that just came in, we had a question on responsible leadership, in terms of what you should be doing in this scenario you are getting exposed to. Now what does this mean? This a technical article is more to help the student to understand that there are many stakeholders for an organization, and you should know, even in your question that you would get in the exam, that there would be many stakeholders. This would help you to have a view on how what you will be deciding or what is being discussed in an organization is going to impact the stakeholders. This would also help, my friend, in terms of how you demonstrate that you are responsible enough, that you are taking the decisions which are not only helping the organization to do what they're doing, but also helping to have a sustainable and long-term success, because you're not taking something irresponsibly. You're being very responsible as far as a leader is concerned, or as far as a human being is concerned. So you're very responsible in terms of thinking not only about organization but also about environment, and that is going to be the key, because you would certainly see, and again I'm telling you, with whatever I've seen, you would now certainly see some questions coming from responsible leadership in every exam. In some way or the other, he would be asking that. So be very important, be very clear on this, that this technical article can be very important from the examination standpoint. Now what should candidate do? Candidate must ensure that they understand the direct and the indirect stakeholders. Now this is the tip that I would have, and again I've picked this up from the technical article. You just have to take it and ensure that you have this. Always understand that you have known who all can be your direct and indirect stakeholders. You should focus on the broader needs of others rather than the personal interests. So more like if you're, let's say, implementing a situation wherein you are deploying a technology into a company, or a new technology into a company, think about kind of attrition that it would lead to, or think about a situation that how many guys would get redundant. If these guys would get redundant, then what would be the impact if they will be out of the job, and so on and so forth. So you're thinking about not only yourself but for the people at large. Or if you're deploying this technology, would that have an impact on the environment as such, in terms of things not working well for the environment, or there is a negative impact on the health of the people, health of the employees, and so on and so forth. So you are taking into consideration the responsible decision making before really getting on to a conclusion. Consider societal and moral implication. As I said, ensure decision making is based on long term rather than satisfying the immediate priorities, which is the profit. So you have to make a decision which is like more having a right impact for the people in a right way. And I do want to give you an example over here. It's really going to be making things very clear for you. Let's say we have a car manufacturer, Kia, and they take care of the staff, very good, keeps the customer happy, very good, adhere to local authorities. Let's say you ensure that all the norms, the traffic management norms or the norms for manufacturing are clearly met, and they, you demonstrate environmental stability or sustainability, which is like the hybrid or electrical vehicles are being manufactured. On the face of it, companies really acting in the interest of the stakeholders while making a healthy profit is a good example of stakeholder theory in action. However, while the organization may believe it is behaving responsibly, there is much more to consider, not least the stakeholders which cannot speak, such as environment and natural resources within it. So we don't know what we don't know. So some thoughts to act responsibly. On the face of it, you may get to see a question wherein everything is hunky-dory, everything is very smart. But you may have to think out, again, I'm just trying to give you some pointers over here, which you may carry in the exam, that you may have to answer it, or you have to mention it in a way that you can make examiner feel that you understand this concept of acting responsibly. You are able to go behind the scenes to really check on some of the important pointers and so on and so forth. For example, do we involve the stakeholders in the decision that you make? Do you have, the holistic decision making wherein the workforce is being, just give an example, giving the workforce a choice about overtime and ensuring that overtime worked is not excessive, even if the rewards to the workforce are good, and so on and so forth. So you don't have an idea for it, but when you talk on responsibility element, you may have to challenge the organization by this logic that are you doing this or not. Let's say considering human and environmental impact. So for example, minimizing the use of materials such as rubber, leather, wherever possible, and so that it can have, because it has a negative impact on our environment. Can you reduce it? Because you are in the car manufacturing industry, many of the things that you would be using is of rubber. Are we really working towards that? You are using some kind of synthetic rather than rubber. Can you think about it? Again, I've just taken an example of Kia MIP. There can be any number of examples, but when you get to see something that just go beyond the scenes, to think through that, yes, everything is being given as hunky-dory, but let me just uncover a few things and mention to the examiner that yes, these are things that one has to consider, these are things that one should be thinking about, and so on and so forth. Let's say implementing the end of life vehicle process. This may include that, are you recycling the old parts, and so on and so forth. So while the 4 comments that I just mentioned, on the slide 1, simply mention that Kia is really good company, everything is fine. But even then, when you have to suggest few things, from the environmental standpoint, from the responsibility standpoint, I've made out few things that, yes, this is something that I should be thinking about. Behaving in a socially responsible manner. This could, include such as diverse factors, implementing environmental management schemes, or even protecting clothing of workers which has been purchased from ethical and sustainable resources. So for example, most of the Kia manufacturing unit employees would be wearing a particular dress or particular uniform. That dress is coming from from somewhere which is an ethical and a sustainable source, which is more like helping poor people, and so on and so forth. So you're thinking on those lines, while normally as a businessman we may not be really thinking on those areas. But nowadays, the responsible leadership element is really getting into play, and examiner or the industry really want you to think in that direction, because more you will think in that direction, the better shareholder satisfaction you have, better people satisfaction you have, and better results you give, and better acceptability you have from the regulator, from the shareholders, and so on and so forth. So very important, we are going behind the scenes, providing public value and addressing societal problems. For example, sponsoring university research program, for more sufficient, more safer and efficient vehicles. Is Kia doing it? Good. It is a point. Developing a socially responsible culture throughout the organization, so that employees are encouraged to share same values of equity, sustainability, quality, and acting in their best interest society. You can also, as a leader, show a commitment for introducing various programs that are encouraging, let's say, or somewhere removing the gender pay gaps in the organization or industry as a whole. Do you have any kind of those kind of things? Again, some of these examples may not straight away come to your mind, but some may, right? If those things really comes onto your mind, you should really be having, I'm just giving some examples over here, take some of it and try if those examples becomes relevant for you in the exam, because if exam would have it and you have these examples, you can straight away put that across. Available, so always behave ethically. For example, reporting vehicle emissions truthfully and accepting responsibility for any vehicle faults, and so on and so forth. So that is also you being responsible to the people, responsible to your customers, responsible to the environment, and so on and so forth. So responsible leadership is everywhere. You just have to go beyond the obvious, beyond what is there, on the common ground, and then take the right action in terms of suggesting to the management, suggesting to the examiner that yes, these are the things that one can really look forward to, or these are the things one should be thinking about, and so on and so forth. Some tips, read the question requirement first, spend time on understanding your direct and indirect stakeholders, very important. Keep highlighting the situation in relation to sustainability you would like to mention. When you're reading it, think about where all are the areas that are that sustainability is going for a toss. Think about those lines. Just go beyond financial profits, very important. You are not only thinking financial profits, you are going beyond. And in fact, there are some of the areas that will be mentioned in the exam that will be non-financial factors, but just go beyond them, only do not stuck with them. All of the good factors might be given you straight away, but think beyond, very important. Structure it and think of conclusion. Be very, very responsible and professional. Examiner loves it. Examiner loves it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Coming on to another technical article, my friend. I really wanted to cover these technical articles to make sure, my friend, that you get the hang of it in terms of what that is, just to make sure that you're not missing on impact, not missing on some of the important aspects. Market segmentation is again one of the examiner article on which technical article on which the recent question came really came in, wherein you may have to do segmentation of your own business, basis the market, basis what you really have, and that is where you really have to play a role of a strategic business leader to ensure that you understand this as a concept. One of the important aspects to be in the SBL syllabus is to involve consideration of a wide range of internal and external factors which influence organizational strategic business and ultimately your strategic direction, which is your mission statement. And that is what market segmentation is all about. And market segmentation can be in a different way, as in you may want to split the market into basis how you're doing in a market or basis your customer. Market segmentation involves splitting the market into segments and developing different strategies for those segments. For example, some soft drink producers manufacture some of their products specifically for diet segment. So effectively, diet Coke and normal Coke. Media companies can also do segmentation that this is more like for teenagers, for old group, and so on and so forth. Insurance company, call centers use segmentation to identify type of sales scripts for different customers based on their age, gender, etc., because they may get calls from different age. Retailers can do it, let's say fast running items and slow moving items. The pricing department can also do. So there are different segmentation in the market that are being available, when it comes to the business or when it comes to your routine deliveries. And on the other hand, there is customer segmentation. It is more like breaking the your customer base into some of the groups, some of the homogeneous groups per se. You break the customer. For example, I may want to break the customer into let's say these are the customers which are like which are more like always into using the credit cards, or these are the customers who are all like all cash based customers. These are the customers who are really internet savvy. These are the customers who are not, and so on and so forth. So you can really segment your market basis your customer also, because you would have a different strategy being deployed. If I'm able to, let's say, segment my customer who is technology savvy and segment my customer who is not, I would have a different policy for both of them, different strategy for both of them, and so on and so forth. The reason I'm talking on this is that you may get to see a question in the exam wherein you may have to do a segmentation of the industry you are in or the case that you are in, depending upon the kind of demography that you see over there, and basis the market segmentation, you would devise the kind of strategy that they would need to follow. For example, the types of market segmentation can be age, gender, income, occupation, nationality, ethnic group, or from the behavioral aspect, like I said, using credit card, not using credit card, brand loyalty, frequency of product, transaction behavior, online shopping, and so on and so forth. So depending upon what segmentation you have, you would take the right course of action. You can do from the geography standpoint, as to which the customer comes from where, and rural, urban, India, non-India, and so on and so forth. Psychographic, it's more like it's more to do with kind of social status, the personality, the lifestyle. You can also do the segmentation. Loyalty card is one of the example. For example, if I'm a regular flyer, let's say of British Airways, and I'm a gold member, platinum member, I would have a different kind of service there, as compared to the person who would not have that tier, with him or her, as the case may be. So it really depends, where you are and what you're doing, and kind of segmentation you are in. Some of the key benefit of segmentation is that it's satisfaction of customer need, very targeted communication, improved focus, improved competitiveness, better market efficiency, enhance customer relation, and I would say, while we do all of it, it effectively helps us in terms of getting more revenue. I still remember, I used to fly Qatar Airways a lot, when I was part of BlackRock or BCG for that matter, and most of the time, Qatar used to upgrade me from business class to first class on its own. I never requested, on its own, because they were using business class ticket for somebody else who was who was buying business class ticket, and their first class was empty, so they used to push me. So they've segmented me in a way that one, they can keep me happy because they're upgrading me, let's say from a business class to the first class, and at the same time earn more money because they're giving that business class seat to someone else. So when you do such kind of a segmentation, it really helps. The reason I'm talking is segmentation is again an example which got recently tested, my friend, wherein you should know that this is what you should be doing. You should be suggesting the examiner that if you do market segmentation, then you're effectively solving the customer need. You're enhancing the customer satisfaction. You're getting more revenue. You're increasing somehow the focus, on that particular person, and you're getting better efficiency also, better money also, and so on and so forth. So very important that we have it. I don't want to mention this, because this, as I said, this recently came in, so I do want to mention that, you are being asked to prepare a briefing note for a finance director, which effectively, wherein he wanted you to assess the value of organization to undertake market segmentation analysis. Now, when you know this, and when you have understood the exam case or the case that is being given to you, it becomes a hell lot easier for you that you can tell them that which kind of strategy would work: geography, non-geography, behavioral, non-behavioral, it's online, non-online. So with what kind of question that really comes your way, you can suggest that if you do this, there can be various benefits, and then you can make out things onto yourself, and so on and so forth. Advise on the most appropriate ways in which they could segment their customers. As I said, when you know this, it becomes a hell lot easier for you. So having this thing at the back of my mind can be a real game changer. So that's the reason I wanted to bring this thing here, just to make sure that you really have it at the back of your mind. Is that clear? Does it help, guys? I'm sure it does. It is more to do with the fact that we should not only know the content, but we should also know that how the examiner has been testing us on that, and how can we best address that. And that's what we at FinTram really focuses on, to make sure that our sessions, of course, including our revision bootcamp, is taking into consideration what is being tested, how it is being tested, and what is the best way to address that in the best possible way. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now, before we really go further, I have one slide to really demonstrate in terms of what all are the offerings that FinTram really follows, and you should be looking forward to that in case you're coming us for the first time, and of course you're seeing us for the first time.
Now, this actually brings us to the end, guys. This is what we really wanted to cover. I know there has been some technical glitches today, and we have not been able to ask the relevant Q&A in between. But don't worry, guys. We will be catching up tomorrow, and of course, we will take up any questions that you may have to really get into the details. For now, what we have covered today is really important, guys, and I can tell you with what all I have seen in the strategic business leader exam, this is one of the most important area that you really need to know. And guys, please ensure that you're not losing this on any front. There is very, 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 I would say, high probability that you would get to see a question on this ground in the exam, come what may. All that we need to do is what is that we need to do? We really have to follow the RAFT-P. We really have to follow the methodology as to which model is to be used where, what exactly you have to give to the examiner in that particular way, what he really expects for, and that is what would be needed. That is what I really wanted to cover today, my friend. I would be seeing you tomorrow in the day 2, wherein we'll capture the rest of the areas. And do not forget, guys, we have day 3 coming up, wherein we'll be getting on to the details as far as the pre-seen material is concerned. So I'll see you tomorrow, my friend. And for now, this is Pankaj Dhingra signing off.